How to speak your truth is the topic of today's Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast with myself, Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Relationship Expert. And one of the things I've been finding myself saying as I teach the Sacred Body Wisdom workshops around the East Coast in the United States is your relationship with yourself dictates your relationship with everyone and everything else. And if you want to speak your truth, you have to know your truth. You have to know your inner truth. You have to know yourself. And your truth doesn't come from your head, doesn't come from your mind. Your truth comes from your body, which is why the sacred body wisdom that I teach, whether it be in the workshop or in the online series that I have available, is fundamental to reclaiming sovereignty. To be sovereign is to live your soul's truth. It's to be your authority because you're trusting the authority of your soul, your own divinity. You're acting on it and you're expressing it. Now, in order to be sovereign, it is to deeply know thyself, thy inner self, thy true identity. And we cannot know thyself through the mind. We come into the inner truth by going into the body because the body contains the truth of the soul. The body is formed by the energy of your infinite self. You access the infinite self in and through the body. This is the soul embodiment. That's why I call myself a soul embodiment guide. It's about bringing more and more your soul light into your body, into your expression, into how you live your life, so that you are living according to this inner truth. And the work, so to speak, is to release all that is not your truth. It's a constant process of anchoring into your divine truth, releasing all that is not your truth. And the mind is full of the external, what you've been told and what you see, the conditioning, all of that. It's true that the subconscious mind is also full of what we've been told and the inherited beliefs, ancestral trauma, karma from past, present lives. And when you go into the body, that's why it's helpful to have a guide or have a structure, because you also come up into or against rather the subconscious, which is not necessarily your soul truth. So it's learning how to distinguish between the two, which is a lot about what I teach. And so I say that because I hear a lot of people, especially women, talk about wanting to speak their truth, wanting to be heard, wanting to be seen. You cannot be seen unless you were bringing your inner experience out to be made visible through your voice. Your voice is what makes you visible. And so many people, men and women, have a hard time expressing their inner world and making it visible to others through the voice, through speaking what is true, what is real, with vulnerability, with self-responsibility, without blaming another, without throwing it on another, right? Like if you've been in a relationship where somebody is speaking a deep truth, and yet it's like, I'm so angry, you, instead of actually like, this is how this is affecting me. This is how this is showing up for me. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. And I want you to know so that we can actually connect and understand each other and come into a harmonious way of being with each other. And to express how you're actually feeling deep inside requires you to know how you're actually feeling deep inside and to be able to bring that forward. And again, this is where it gets a little bit multi-layered, because you have to be able to be radically honest with yourself about, okay, so this is coming up. How much of this is my projection? How much of this is me demanding or expecting someone to be a certain way when they're not that way? How much of this is me trying to control? How much of this is my actual soul truth? For example, if you're in relationship, because this is generally how we're expressing our truth, right? It's in a relationship to someone, whether it's an intimate partner, family member, a boss, coworker. When we're upset about something, it's really easy just to go into what they're not doing, right? Instead of, did I ask for that? Did I make it clear? Not in a self-blaming, judgmental way, because that can create its own spiral. But in a, did I express what I wanted? Did I express what I needed? Or am I expecting that person to read my mind? I see that so often when I work with people, or just look outside and how people are interacting, is this idea of, well, they should have known how I felt, so they shouldn't have done that. And that's really not the way it works when you are in an intimate, conscious relationship. You cannot expect other people to know how you feel. You cannot expect other people to read your mind. Yeah, those things happen. Of course, we're all intuitive. We can read minds. We can be telepathic. And when you're expecting someone to meet an expectation, a demand that you have, a desire that you have, and you're not communicating that vulnerably while recognizing their choice to say yes or no, and that it's not personal, it's about them, not you. And then you're upset when they don't fulfill that thing that you've never spoke out loud. So common. That's why I'm bringing it up. Then that is not honoring the sovereign choice that they have, nor is it honoring your own capacity to respond to someone's yes or no. It's putting it on them. It's basically a way of putting responsibility outside of the self because you're afraid. What? Afraid of asking, afraid of saying, afraid of having needs. And this is why speaking your truth requires a lot of inner emotional work. I was talking about someone with this the other day who wants to be more communicative in her relationships, who wants to be more emotionally expressive. And I said, it's not an easy, okay, so now I just start speaking my truth. It's looking at, why am I not? Why am I not already speaking my truth? That's the real question to be asking. Why am I not? So what is holding me back? What has been the fear I've been holding on to? What has been the belief I've been holding on to? Okay, I'm afraid of making somebody upset. Beautiful. You identify that. And then what do? You look at that. I'm afraid of making somebody upset. Why? This is the kind of work that I do with my clients one-on-one, is we get to the root of these beliefs. We get to the root emotions. And often we get to the root of the karma that's been keeping, say, the throat blocked, for example. And if you can identify the root, you can transmute it, you can clear it, you can reprogram your body mind into a new belief, into a new experience, into a new energetic reality. So, okay, so you're afraid of making somebody upset. Let's go with this example. Perhaps it's because you're afraid that if they're upset, they're going to be mad at you and they're not going to like you anymore, right? They don't like me anymore. They might not want to be with me anymore. They might leave me. It's just how the beliefs can spiral. And then what will I do if I'm alone? What will I do if they leave me, right? The ways that we seek that, need that love to come from outside, need that validation to come from outside. Because we have beliefs. No matter what, we have beliefs. The question is, are those beliefs aligned with your soul truth, with your divine truth? And if they're not aligned with your divine truth, that's the work, is to create that alignment, mind, body, and soul, so that you are operating from a place of wholeness, fullness, not from a place of lack, of needing, but out of pure desire. And then the inner work is not, okay, well, I have to stop making this person upset because every time I speak my truth, they get upset, they get angry, right? This is, again, very common. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. Well, if I speak my truth, in the past I have gotten angry. Well, if I speak my truth, they do get upset. They do take it personally. And that can happen. We're not taught emotional intelligence. You have to learn emotional intelligence. In this society, you have to learn emotional intelligence. We are not taught how to be emotionally intelligent. And this is what affects most relationships. Because if you are not being emotionally intelligent, you're not experiencing intimacy, and you're not experiencing sovereignty, and you're therefore not experiencing freedom in your relationships. And both people have to do the work to create more emotional intelligence, to increase their capacity to hear and see the other, to create that level of intimacy that is usually desired by most people. There's also a fear of intimacy. That's a whole other conversation, which I'll just say boils down to a fear of being seen. So just breathe into that for a minute. Okay. So the fear of being rejected, you speak your truth. Pretty common, fear of being judged. And it's one thing to identify these fears, right? So like when I do these podcasts, we're identifying things on a conscious level, bringing what are very subconscious beliefs and experiences up to the surface. That's what I do. I bring the collective subconscious up to the surface in my work, in the book that I'm writing, in my podcast. When I work with clients, we're accessing that subconscious. We're bringing the subconscious to light to create inner union, to create wholeness, to create sovereignty, to create soul alignment, soul embodiment. And just bringing it up on a mental level is not enough. I hear that all the time. Okay, well, now I know. Great, now you know. But that's this first step to then do the emotional work to clear that out of your system so that you are not beholden to that on an emotional or energetic level. You cleared the root. Again, that's why I work one-on-one with clients, because we get to do that really quickly and make massive shifts really quickly in their lives. If you are discovering these fears of rejection, these fears of judgment, the fears of conflict, all of these fears, you just have to develop the capacity, whether it's with someone like myself or another guide, or with your own consciousness, to observe these things as not as who you are, but as experiences and beliefs that you're having, that you get to heal, that you get to transmute, that you get to reprogram in yourself. So how to speak your truth, really what that boils down to, it's not just opening your throat chakra. That could be part of it, absolutely. But it's doing the emotional work that actually opens the throat chakra naturally. When we're working with energy, emotions are energy. And we have to work with the actual emotions for it to be embodied. And you look at the emotions and you heal that wound, you heal that fear in order to be able to naturally let the throat chakra expand, because you're developing the awareness of the beliefs that have been holding you back. You're touching the wounds that you've experienced that have been holding you back. And you are allowing that inner safety to be created within yourself by holding the consciousness that allows you to observe what's going on and still source from within, from the God source, from the God source goddess, from the universe, whatever you want to call it, from your divinity. You're sourcing that safety from your divinity, which allows you to face the fear of rejection and face the fear of judgment and actually transmute it through how you're showing up in your life. Not because you never feel it, but because every time you do feel it, you're holding that with curiosity in front of you and looking at it and aligning that to your divine truth, rather than being beholden to what you think is who you are, how you've always operated in the past. And I say this because I hope that this podcast is helping you begin to realize that if you have these fears of speaking your truth, if you have these old wounds, likely from past lives. I work with so many women and men too, but women who had past lives as witches, past lives as priestesses, past lives in which they were killed for speaking their truth. I know I have gone through that journey myself. And to to face that is a really powerful journey of healing that witch wound, of healing that fear, speaking your truth. And you get to do that. That's what I support people to do. And you have the capacity to do that when you develop a deeper level of self-knowledge, and by going into your body and accessing this energetically and allowing your body, your soul, to show you what you need to see to come into deeper alignment with your truth, so it can be expressed to the world and in your relationships and how you show up. So I think I'm going to stop there today. There's a lot more I can say on speaking your truth, and I know I've done other episodes on this, but I wanted today's episode to be primarily focused on the level of inner work that's required to speak your truth. So I'm going to wrap up with a few concise reminders so you can jot these down, like how you speak your truth. And before that, I will say the Sacred Body Wisdom online series is available. It's only $197. And you can start it immediately. And there are activations that you can listen to over and over and over to create that inner alignment between the womb, the core, the heart, and the throat, to open the throat, but to create the channels, to open the channels. And they're infused with light language that create massive energetic shifts on a very deep level, very quickly. And the more you listen, the deeper they go. You're literally rewiring your energetic field to align more and more with your soul truth. That's the work. So that's available at thepathtosovereignty.com. I will also put the link below. You can add on one-on-one sessions if you want a divine activation portal as well with that. Okay. So to recap, speaking your truth. One is, why am I not? There's something I know I need to say. Why am I not saying it? Identify the fear. Identify the belief. Get crystal clear. What is this actually about? What are my fears? Okay, so I'm afraid of this. Okay, what's underneath that? Okay, so what's the emotion underneath that? What's the fear underneath that? Get to the root. And then you align it to your soul's truth. And you say, okay, if I'm aligning to the divine that I am, if I'm aligning to my soul's truth, the infinite, eternal, powerful being that I am, what is my actual truth here? And how can I source this love or this acceptance or this worthiness or this value or this safety from within, which is sovereignty, in order to be able to speak this from my heart, not from a place of blame, not from a place of judgment or demand or expectation, but in recognizing that person's sovereign choice as well? How can I show up and express this vulnerably from my heart? And that's the work. So you can see it's not like a black and white thing. It's a journey. And I'm here to support you on that journey. If you want to heal those wounds and liberate your truth, I'm here, thepathtosovereignty.com. And you have this podcast as a resource. So be sure to subscribe if you're not already. You can sign up to receive the podcast delivered straight to your inbox each week. It's free. And of course, you can add on $13 for a free monthly embodied meditation as well. But just to receive the emails is free. You will receive a gift of a reclamation it's like a ritual to reclaim your sovereignty, as well as a daily 10-minute energetic womb meditation. And I'll even give you access to the replay from the event that we did this past week on the power of the feminine. All right, much love. All the links are below. See you next week.